Okay, so we've talked about how negative externalities can cause market failure. Well, so can positive externalities, and let's understand why. We'll start with positive externalities in consumption. Okay, so as consumers consume a good or a service, there are actual benefits to third parties. So the definition of positive externalities are third-party benefits that accrue as a result of actions from a separate agent. Okay, so someone consuming something leads to benefits to somebody else who's not actually engaged in the transaction at all. Good examples of this, vaccinations. So if I get vaccinated, it means that there's less chance of somebody else in the world catching whatever disease I was vaccinated for. So if there's a flu jab, there's less chance of somebody else in the world catching flu from me. So there's a benefit to somebody else when I've taken a vaccination. Okay, consuming, let's say, healthcare, okay, or education. If we look at education, through consuming education, I'm more likely to get a good job, I'm more likely to earn a greater salary and therefore pay higher taxes. And when I pay higher taxes, that's going to benefit other people because these taxes are then redistributed in the distribution of public goods and social services, etc., which benefits everybody else in the economy. Okay, so these kind of goods and services, when consumed, generate positive externalities, benefits to third parties. And when we try and show these effects on diagrams, we can again see that we end up with a misallocation of resources, which then causes market failure. Alright, so again, the basic pro forma, the basic kind of step-by-step method of drawing diagrams applies here again. So let's look, we start off again with our curves that look like that. We now need to work out which curve moves. Well, a positive externality in consumption, which means we're looking at consumers are generating it. Which curve relates to consumers? The benefits curve, this one. Okay, so that's the curve we're moving, which means the other one, you just keep the same, label it MSC and MPC. We're not touching that one at all. Which way does the curve move? We know it's that one. Well, now it's going to move to the right. Okay, so move that one to the right over there. Okay, the curve that moved is the social one, so let's label that MSB, and the other one, therefore, is the private one, MPB. The market equilibrium only takes into account the private effects. So that leads us to this equilibrium, which is the market equilibrium here. But when the social equilibrium is considered, which takes into account all the externalities, it takes us to this social optimum, which is Q star and P star, okay? So the social benefits here include the positive externalities in consumption. So there's a social optimum there. Now, let's work out the welfare loss. To work out the welfare loss, we go to the market equilibrium, which is here, and we compare the social costs and the social benefits at that point. Well, here are the social costs, but up here, we've got the social benefits. What we're trying to say here is that if we produced more up to Q star, okay, every extra unit produced would bring in more benefit than cost. So by not producing those units, we're actually losing out. Okay, so again, you're shading the area which points towards the social optimum equilibrium there. Okay, so all these extra units would have brought in more benefit than cost. By not producing them, we're losing out by this total shaded area. Okay, so that's the welfare loss there. You can see here there's a misallocation of resources. These goods and services that generate positive externalities are being underprovided compared to what society would like. And that's because private individuals don't take into account the third-party benefits. They only care about themselves, self-interest to gain. Okay, the social benefits account for the positive externalities, but the private individual only considers his own private benefits, which leads to this misallocation. Okay, so that's positive externalities in consumption. Let's look at positive externalities in production now. Okay, so again, let's just get our curve or diagram sorted. So we have price, costs, and benefits, and we also have quantity down here. We'll start in the same place. Okay, so positive externality in production. So now firms, by doing something, by engaging in operations, are generating positive externalities. Well, what could they be? Two good examples for you. If a firm decides to adopt a very, very good training regime for its workers, well, other firms could benefit from that strong training regime because as a worker is trained strongly, another firm can poach the worker that's been trained so well. Okay? And in poaching the worker, that firm actually has a lower cost. Okay? It can benefit from lower cost by poaching the worker that's already been trained so well. Okay, so that's an external benefit to a firm. At the same time, if you look at research and development or innovation, by one firm actually engaging in research and development and making brand new amazing products, developing new technology, another firm could benefit simply by copying the technology at lower cost. In that sense, the other firm benefits even though they're not engaged in R&D at all themselves. Okay, and that lowers their cost of production. So it's an external benefit, a third-party benefit to a firm, even though they've got nothing to do with the R&D that took place in the first place. Okay, so that's how positive externalities in production can be generated. So again, which curve moves? Well, we're looking at production now, which means that we're looking at firms, and which curve relates to firms? The cost curve does, that one. Which means the other curve is not going to move at all. So let's label that MSB, and it's also MPB. Okay, so moving this one, which way? Positive externality is going to be moving right. Okay, what do we label? The one that we moved is the social one, the other one is the private one. Okay, market equilibrium only considers the private effects, so that takes us to Q1 and to P1. Okay, the social equilibrium or the social optimum takes into account the full social effects, and that takes us to Q star and to P star. The welfare loss, to work out the welfare loss, you go to the market equilibrium and you compare the social benefits and the social costs. Well, there's the market equilibrium, and at that point of production Q1, there are the social benefits, but here are the social costs. So the same issue as before, by producing more extra units up to Q star, each unit would bring in more benefit than cost. By not producing them, we're actually losing out on those potential extra benefits. So that's the welfare loss, by not producing the socially optimum level of resources, the socially optimum level of goods. Okay, so that tells you that there is a misallocation society. We want Q star units to be provided, but only Q1 is. We have a misallocation and therefore a market failure. And again, this is simply the self-interest argument that's being taken into account. The full social costs here include these external benefits, okay, which are not accounted for when firms make decisions. Hence, they only consider their private costs and not the full social cost, which accounts for these external benefits as well. Okay, so that's positive externalities for you, and that's how it leads to market failure. See you next time. Thank you very much.